And today I'm going to share how salt works.
And I'm going to share a bunch of stuff to help you be a better human. Let's get to it.
My cool sheet is a video, and this was spurred by Brian asking me to talk about this because I was like, I need one more cool sheet to talk about. And here's the question: why does salt make food taste better? Okay, so you know that Mary Poppins saying, or from that song, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. But guess what? A pinch of salt actually does the work better than sugar. How is that? And why does salt make food taste better? There's a video, and that's what I'm going to be linking to. It's by my fellow chemist, my buddy Hank Green. He explains this, and I'm going to do it too, because I've done some experiments with this exact thing. Salt, which is usually sodium in the form of sodium chloride, is an essential nutrient, and our body uses it for an uncountable number of biochemical processes, but our body can't make sodium by itself. So we have to get at least some of it from our diet. So it makes sense that we naturally crave it. Humans taste salt because we have pores that allow sodium to pass through into the taste receptor cells in the taste buds in our tongues, which sends a signal to our brain saying it's salty. And that all makes sense. But what is more surprising is that salt also makes things sweeter. Our intestines are full of these sugar sensors, and our mouth has some of them too. And this is because there is a sugar sensor in our bodies that pushes sugar into the sweet taste cell when it senses the presence of sodium in our blood. Wow, this is mind-blowing to me. Salt triggers the cell to register sweetness. Who would have known? Another interesting and unexpected thing that salt does is that it suppresses bitterness. And get this, it does it better than sweetness does. Researchers have not completely figured out the mechanism for it, but studies suggest that it involves both the tongue and the brain. Most of the bitterness blocking happens in the taste buds, and what the researchers think sodium does here is that it interferes with the binding between the bitter compounds and the taste cell receptors. You can do an experiment with this with gin and tonic, add a pinch of salt to it, and taste one with the salt and without, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. I've done that experiment with my cocktail chemistry folks. Why salt makes food taste better.
See, this is why I wanted you to explain it instead of me try to figure it out, because I'd be like, it's a mineral, and it's people put it on stuff, and so it's good. The end. And that's not very interesting at all. And I knew that you would come up with some winners. This is so cool.
Oh yeah, and there's so much more. But especially as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I've done this experiment.
That's perfect. Yeah, because this one literally was like an hour ago, I think, maybe a little bit longer since we started recording. But
I don't know if you saw, if you could see as I was typing it directly in.
Yeah.
It was done in like 10 minutes.
That's so cool. Problem. Yeah, and it's super interesting and thorough. I mean, it pays to be a chemist for that one. That's why I was like, oh, this would. I didn't know you'd be able to do it that fast, but that's amazing. And I'm so glad. There's another thing where you started talking about it, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to bring up bitterness, and boom, you hit that one as well. Because yes, there is a trick, if your coffee's too bitter, to add a little bit of salt to it, which is funny because I think it's James or Jeff or Jim Hoffman, who's a very coffee aficionado. When we did coffee trials on that, he was one of the people with Chef Steps that was kind of their expert. But he's like, because he talks about a lot of these things and hacks and things about coffee, and he's like, yeah, that works, but also you're not making good coffee, so stop making bad coffee and using bad coffee and things like that. Work on temperature and grind size and things like that. Yeah, but he does say it works, and I just did my own self-experiment with this with grapefruit. So I was like,
oh, cool.
I just wasn't in the mood. Usually, most of the time, I love the taste of that bitterness and sourness of grapefruit, but I was like, I don't, and I'm like, I swear that salt made it better than sugar, and I was like, in my mind, it didn't make sense. And I go, I know as a kid that my grandma did this. And so I put a little salt on it, and it was amazing.
That's so cool.
And it makes sense also why, sea salt caramel ice cream so popular right now, or has been for a while now, how it's just blown up and it continues to blow up. And so that kind of explains that sweetness factor. Yeah. So, it's so cool. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the idea.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
All right. I'm going to be talking about a pocket collection, and this is how to be less judgmental. So The Pocket Collection is a series of articles, audio, and videos. And I actually talked about Pocket, so that's kind of when you find things on the internet and you save it into this app. It's a Chrome extension. I think it's also an app on iPhones or Androids. And I talked about Pocket in episode 1, so I've been a fan forever. But I've also had a bunch of Pocket collections. And last week I talked about how we all make snap first impressions about each other, and here's how to slow that down. So that was from this collection. So how to be less judgmental about others, but also how to be less judgmental towards yourself. That is just as important, although we usually think about the other one first, and it might even be more important to be less judgmental on yourself. Kind of like that saying goes that you must love yourself before you can love others. You must stop judging yourself before, and then you can start judging others less as well. Don't be so hard on yourself. So I love it because it covers both. Some of the topics include the cognitive bias, tricking your brain. So we both, I think, talked about cognitive bias, different biases and things like that, how to identify them and then how to get better at them. Also, another one I liked, negative self-talk, 5 ways to silence your toxic inner critic. So I have many problems with my inner critic, with imposter syndrome and things like that, so I can't wait to read this one. The elements of good judgment, how to improve your decision making. So it's a real grab bag of a whole bunch of different things. Why overly kind and moral people can rub you the wrong way. This is always something that I thought maybe I was just a weirdo or a hidden jerk, but this actually tells you why. There's no one, you're probably not as open-minded as you think, and here's how to practice. So a little bit deeper dive, because this one talks about things that we talk about so much. Number 1, recognize that your biological hardware isn't exactly setting you up for success. 2 is be curious. So that's one of our own famous sayings. Stay calm, surround yourself with the right people. And if all else fails, try ayahuasca, which is only a half joke. But since Karen and I have both went on that journey, I thought it was very interesting. There's a bunch of other ones, but definitely check out this Pocket Collection, How to Be Less Judgmental.
This sounds amazing. Yeah. I could spend hours and hours.
Yeah, and I don't know how many. It's like maybe 10 different, like I said, some are articles, some are videos, some are podcasts.
Love it.
And every single one of them, I guarantee you, could be a cool sheet if I wanted to. And some of them might be, once I read more of them more in depth, I might bring one back as a cool sheet. Yes. Because they all sounded super interesting. Yeah. And that's why I love these Pocket collections so much.
Oh my gosh, totally.
So cool.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And so you can find this Pocket Collection. You can find everything that we have talked about if you go to 10bestest.com/girls. Thank you for joining us, friend. I'm Karen McFarland-Ullman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
Let us know in the comments, what's your favorite new knowledge about salt?
And let us know what's one thing you can do to be a better human.
If you're enjoying the show, please give us a like and share it with a friend.
Stay tuned next week for another great series of shows.
And don't forget to stay curious.